What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jay Rich, back for another episode of Across the Pod with my main man Tom, getting you ready for everything game week 6. Tom, how are you doing, my friend, and are you excited for game week 6?
I'm always excited to be here chatting with you about FPL, but yeah, I mean, this week it looks like a lot of teams are going the template route with the wildcard, but we'll try and dissect it. But yeah, nice to be back.
Yeah, it's always good to be back. You have here your slides as you always prepare for us. What are you walking through here with this team?
Yeah, I think the main thing to say this week is it seems like every single person on FPL, especially those that are on FPL Twitter, have the exact same idea to wildcard and the exact same team. All of the content creators have exactly the same team. And I think we can kind of go through and dissect it at goalkeeper, defender, midfield, forward level, but just generally thoughts on a template team. It's a little bit boring,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it feels like everyone's kind of going that route. So it's a real risk to either, if you go with it, then versus if you don't go with it, it's like the risk reward of being template versus differential. So, I mean, any thoughts on that team itself, and then we can kind of dive into the different levels.
I mean, I think it looks good, but yeah, as you mentioned it, and it's not even just that this is template now. This has been the template team for a while with a lot of these players. We talk about the same types of players every week. Gyökeres kind of being added because of the Arsenal fixture swing. Gabriel, Raya, kind of the same thing. Semenyo has been template for God knows how long, and yet he's still not in my team. Surprised to see Reijnders in there, but I think it's a solid team. Great defense in the back with DEFCON, obviously very strong up top, and then depending on how you want to build your midfield, as we always talk about, is going to be a bit of your differential. But where do you want to start with this template team, and kind of how do you feel about it going forward?
Yeah, let's dissect it from the back and going forward. So from the goalkeeper options, I think most people are going to go with Raya. I think he's a good gateway into the Arsenal defense, and I think most people are probably going to double up on them. The only issue is I don't think it's a great time if you're not on wildcard. I'm not bringing in Arsenal assets this week because I think Newcastle away is a tough fixture for them. I think they tend to have a tough time at St. James's Park. I think Newcastle will score. So I think if you're on wildcard, I understand going with them now and just getting ahead of the curve because Arsenal's fixtures swing from next week. But in terms of the goalkeeper itself, Raya at 5.5 versus Donnarumma at 5.6 versus Pope at 5 million. I think I actually do quite like Donnarumma as an entry into that Man City defense, and he's cheaper than going with Gabriel. And I think he's going to make saves, and Man City's fixtures are great. I guess the issue is Arsenal on paper are a better defense and have equally or better fixtures. So for me, I'd probably lean towards Raya. The other question, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Pope, is I think Newcastle have got 5 clean sheets in the last 6 or something ridiculous, like in terms of.
And he's the highest scoring goalkeeper too.
Yeah, already highest scoring goalkeeper, and you can save 0.5 by owning him. And I don't think Newcastle's fixtures are necessarily difficult, but I think we're also turning into that side in the 2022-23 season where we're really hard to score against. And I think that's like Eddie Howe's got that basics. There's obviously questions about going forward and scoring goals and winning games, but he's kind of got the defense on lock again. So keen to hear your thoughts on Pope.
I mean, Pope looks good, right? So in terms of fixtures, you have home Arsenal, home against Forest, which isn't going to be tough, away at Brighton, Fulham at home, West Ham away. So those are your next 5 game weeks, and they do look pretty solid overall. I think it makes a lot of sense if you really need to save that money. I do just prefer Raya because Arsenal is so strong in defense. And, you talk about Arsenal struggling to score at St. James's Park, but I also am pretty confident they can keep a clean sheet as well, right? That's the other side of it, is that offensively scoring goals, we haven't been very strong, especially against a team like Arsenal. I could see them sitting back and trying to just get that point even at home in that contest. So I think both are great options. I like Donnarumma as well. Obviously, he's already gone up in price, so that makes it a bit tougher to own him, but all 3 are great options, and I don't think I'd be looking at anybody else as far as wildcard goes when it comes to the goalkeeper position.
Which one would be your favorite?
I think I would take Raya even still.
Yeah,
I'm fine with Newcastle away. Arsenal's going to play strong defensively. They may sit back and just play for a clean sheet.
Yeah.
If they're struggling to generate offense, because as you mentioned, Howe has been playing great defensively, and he may even play 5 at the back again. So we'll see where that goes.
Exactly. All right. Good stuff. Defenders now. I think in terms of the team itself, Gabriel, I think he's a lock on most people's teams. I understand the value in him. Great goal threat. Entry into it's probably between him and Saliba are the most nailed in that Arsenal defense. So understand Gabriel with good fixtures. Tarkowski, he's been in my team since game week 1. I see a lot of people now deciding like they want to go with him. He's just a 4.8 point monster. You know, he gets 4 points every single game. In the good fixtures as well, he's likely to get a clean sheet. It's 8, 9, 10 points with bonus. West Ham at home is an absolutely fantastic fixture. And I think even in the tougher games, you know, I'd still happy to play him. And I think it's kind of parallels with Senesi there in a side where, you know, the Bournemouth, everyone thought Bournemouth was going to be bad this season. Irola's kind of just got them playing the system. And Senesi looks like a great, you know, budget enabler at 4.8, getting DEFCON every single game, the odd clean sheet. And I think the one thing he offers more than Tarkowski even is he has the ability to score goals and get a lot of assists. I was watching the Newcastle game and he was playing a lot of balls in behind, unlucky not to get the odd assist. And I think in that season, we kind of spoke about it last week, not last season because he was kind of out of the team, the season before, he got like almost double digits in assists and goals combined. So his goal involvements historically have been really good. And if he can mirror anything like that, I just don't see a reason why you wouldn't own Senesi.
Yeah, I mean, 23-24, 4 goals and 5 assists, as you mentioned. So nearly 10 goal involvements from a defender that gets DEFCON almost every single week. And as you mentioned, keeps putting it over the top. Through balls to Evan Nielsen, through balls to Semenyo, have been consistent. And I think they're only going to continue to play that way. So he's definitely a player that I think the question for you is, at what point does he become too expensive to own? Because he's been rising a lot. You were on him very early. And so a lot of people who watch the show probably do have him in their team already. But at what point do you think he gets too expensive?
I think he offers you everything that a Tarkowski offers you, and Tarkowski's 5.5 and in everyone's team. So I think, you know, he's 4.8. I'd still pick him up even up into 5 million. So I think there's great value there. And I think the other players that you'd say, maybe I'd go for an Anderson there at 4.5 million. He's getting DEFCON every game.
Like every game.
The only issue for me is I don't think Fulham they are a pretty good defensive side, but you've got Anderson. And I guess the same reason I'm not going to pick Virgil van Dijk if I was on Wildcard is both of their fixtures are just horrendous. I think Anderson's next 4, I don't envision a clean sheet in the next 4 for Fulham. And then at that point, you're probably playing a difficult enough game that you're conceding 2 goals. So he's getting 3 points a game. So for me, I think Senesi, Tarkowski, if you want to go DEFCON, that's the route to go. I think similarly with Virgil at 6.1 million, he does get defensive contributions, but I don't see Liverpool. I mean, I'd be interested to see if you pull up the fixtures. I don't think Liverpool are going to keep a clean sheet in the next 5 or 6 games, to be honest with you. Like the way that they're playing, they've only got 2 fit centre-backs. Don't know what's happening at the right-back spot. Kirkes as well looks a little bit all over the place. So for me, Liverpool's not really a defence I want to target. I understand Van Dijk with DEFCON, but then you're getting that from Senesi and Tarkowski, who are cheaper, and even Anderson. So I think they, in terms of the template, it kind of makes, I think Gabriel, Tarkowski, Senesi is probably up there. The only other player that, I mean, I've still got double palace defense in my team, and I think Munoz still offers so much in terms of ability to get forward, score goals. And I see so many people selling him. I just think over the course of the season, he's probably going to come good again. So I think you can be patient and not have to worry about that. I wouldn't take hits to take Munoz or Lacroix out. And the last player is Dan Burn, who's 5 million. We talk about that price point quite a bit, but he's 5 million and getting DEFCON, and in that side that we talked about, same reason to get Nick Pope. Would you consider Dan Burn instead of a Tarkowski and save 0.5?
I wouldn't personally. I just think if I'm going to go after a Newcastle player, it's going to be Livramento, because he's just 90 every time, every game. He's going to be a goal scoring threat potentially. Definitely will get down the wing, get assists. Like, there's just so much more attacking threat. Burn may get the odd header here or there to where he can generate that offensively, but it's not going to be very often, right? And I think at that price point, I'd just rather have Livramento. I think he just provides so much more, and he will get DEFCON every now and then. But really, I think with Newcastle, you play it a bit more for the clean sheets than anything else. And I think Dan Burn just doesn't quite offer enough to where I'd be willing to trade him for a Livramento person. But like everybody else, like I think for me, it'd be Munoz. You talked about the Anderson fixtures, Villa away, which it's great as a 4, but probably doesn't play like that. Bournemouth away is not great. Arsenal at home, and then Newcastle away until it finally turns into a Wolves fixture. At that point, you're looking pretty good. So that's from game week 10 on. You could look to bring in Anderson to your team kind of as a long-term or as a bench guy. Right now, he's only 4.5, so it's not too bad. But I like your selections here. I think the big three in Gabriel, Tarkowski, and Senesi are great. Virgil is still a great option, but as you mentioned, Liverpool's clean sheet potential doesn't seem very high relative to players like a Gabriel who's in that same price range. I don't think there's anybody else that I would consider here unless, you need a cheap guy like a Stev in there. You didn't bring up any Tottenham assets, which was surprising because I think Porro at 5.5 is still a great one. He's got Wolves at home, Leeds away, Villa at home. So like the fixtures are still good. Yeah. And then Van de Ven, I think, is still only 4.7 and has been doing pretty well as well. So I think the Tottenham assets still seem pretty strong in the defense and then even going into the forwards as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, I completely agree. I think just for me this season with the introduction of DEFCON, it just feels like free bonus points where other players don't have, and I think it just feels like it's so much worth targeting those. But some good insights there. I think if we move on to midfield, I think midfield's the area that I'm struggling. I mean, we spoke about it last week, right? We said pick your three up front as Pedro, Haaland, Gyökeres. Pick your 3 or 4 at the back, including Tarkowski, Senesi. And then the midfield then decide. And look at this, a week later, everyone's decided that's the team that they want to go with. So we're kind of ahead of the curve. But I think in the midfield, most people of the engaged top 10K managers, I think 76% of them are ditching Salah in a bid to get Erling Haaland ahead of Burnley at home. Yeah. Now, for me, I own Haaland and Salah, so I'm not going to be selling Salah. I understand why people are doing that, but what they're leaving themselves with in midfield is, well, I guess we can dissect it. I think Fernandes is still a good pick. I'm kind of glad I don't own him anymore because it was just it was hard watching a Man United game waiting for a penalty. But his stats generally are pretty good, like the progressive passes forward, the carries, the passes leading into shot. I mean, the amount of stats they make up these days. Passes that create shot creating chances, something like that. He's kind of top of all the leaderboards. So I do think that as an asset, if you have Fernandes, I would keep him. Yeah. But I don't know. It's United and he's playing deep and without a penalty. I think in a lot of those games, he scored like 10 point, then he got 2 point, 3 point, 2 point, and then another 10 pointer when he scored again. So I think it's really dependent on people putting away his chances with United haven't been. And then I think the other three, let's get your thoughts on Bruno first, because I think that's probably the main one that I'm just kind of struggling with.
So I have Bruno on my team. He's going to stay at my team. I think I'm just going to ride the ups and downs with United so far this year. I think they have been playing better though, right? You look to where they looked game week 1 till now, pretty strong. You talk about, the fixtures as a whole right now. The Brentford one, I'm curious your thoughts because we have Mbeumo going back to Brentford for his little revenge game, and he hasn't been playing overly well. They have Sunderland at home, Liverpool away, Brighton, Forest, Spurs, Everton, Palace, West Ham, Wolves, Bournemouth. Like, there's not any top 5 teams in their schedule for the next 10 game weeks, right? So there's always going to be opportunities for them to be in high-scoring games, score goals, penalty opportunities. They're not playing any of the top teams for a while outside of that one Liverpool fixture. I'm fine with him depending on how you want to build, but he is a premium asset right now. And I see over in the far right, you have Saka in there. And just like you're saying, you don't know if you want to bring in assets right now for the Newcastle fixture. Saka's a player that I'm looking at 9.8 and saying he's probably going to be at 10 mil by next week.
Oof, that's a good prediction. I mean, the only thing with Saka for me is I think he's a great differential because no one owns him. 9.8 when he's normally 10, 10.5. The only thing for me is he's normally on penalties, and I think we're kind of in agreement it's going to be Gyökeres. But then again, Saka's a differential. When the fixtures swing next week and everyone's piling in to try and get him, why not bring him in now if you're on wildcard? I do kind of like the idea of going with Saka when everyone else is so scared of bringing him in or looking for the template team. Yeah.
And so that's where I kind of like it. But the hard part, right, is like you're saying, Gabriel, very highly transferred in this week. Raya, also very highly transferred in this week. People will bring in Gyökeres, especially with the doubts of Haaland. But I think just the simple switch of going from, if you have Palmer, who's out, the next 3 to 6 game weeks with the hamstring injury, to a Saka is like a massive differential when everyone will be looking to try to bring in Haaland, bring in Salah, bring in somebody else. They're not looking to Saka right now. You look to Semenyo. Yeah. Semenyo's obviously template, looks great. What do you think about Reijnders, though? Because I believe he dropped going into game week 5 in price, and then he had another great week, and all of a sudden now he's template. But it feels like it's just people are wildcarding at the wrong time. He's still in my team. I've had him since he was 5.5. I still think he's a great asset, but he's going to be a bit up and down. Like, how do you balance him versus a player like Caicedo that is literally locked in for DEFCON every single week?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think at that price point, he's a great option. He's in the City lineup every week, but for me, the reason I ditched Reijnders is he's probably going to be playing as a 6 now with Foden looking like he's picking up form playing the 10. He's going to be playing a little bit deeper. Also, his expected goal involvements. He obviously got a 10-pointer from an assist, but his expected goal involvements was like 0.02, and it was just a pass to Haaland that he did well with.
Last week.
0.1. And I think if you look at his goal involvements across the other game weeks, it's relatively low. So you're owning, a player,
you took for the entire season per 90, it's 0.13 and 0.07 for goals, but it's a 0.2 per game. On the entire season, it's a 1.0 expected goal involvements, and he is already at
across
3.
5 games. So like he's overperforming the stats, even if like he does pass the eye test, looks like a fantastic player. But for me, I don't understand. You've now had your option to wildcard, and this is the player that you'll decide. I understand he enables, but for me, I would much rather have Tarkowski and play 4 at the back than a Reijnders.
Okay.
So something a little bit more interesting. Undai is an interesting one for me because I think at the start of the season, everyone really wanted him and then decided they didn't want him.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden he's now back in everyone's team. I understand he got a couple of DEFCON points, but I don't think that's sustainable. He definitely didn't do that last season. And you don't want to own a 6.5 million player for that. His expected goal involvements, again, for me, have been pretty poor. And, it's similar to like Munoz, for instance, who's like a defender. But the only benefit for Undai is he's got good fixtures and he's on penalties. So I understand that pick a little bit more than Reijnders maybe. And I think Reijnders looks good with the Burnley at home fixture, and a lot of people seeing everyone else has him and wanting to bring him in. So I think Undai is interesting. The reason I put Elliot Anderson in there is an interesting one because Ange has obviously come in the cup last night. They played Elliot Anderson at 10. So he played in that 10 role behind Igor Jesus. And he had I think in the Premier League so far, he's 5th for most crosses, a lot of forward attacking. I think he's had he's unlucky not to have more assists and more goals, and I think they'll come with time. And I think he's hit in the last 8 games for England, and in the Prem, he's getting DEFCON around 12. So
what's crazy is, he's 12.6, right? 11, 11, 11, the first 3 game weeks. And then finally, Ange comes in 15, 15 in terms of DEFCON and got the points both weeks. We talk about the goal involvements. Again, it hasn't been great for him, but I think the good part is that you do get the DEFCON now. And it seems like while early on he was just falling short every game week, it's why at 5.5, I don't hate having a player like him in the team. I just think it makes a ton of sense overall.
Yeah, exactly. I just think it's, I would probably pick Anderson over Reijnders personally this week. Guaranteed pretty much 4. And then the odd assist, the odd goal is going to really pump him up. So, and I think the second that does happen once, everyone's going to transfer him in.
Absolutely.
Stack. I mean, the other ones to talk about, Salah's just Salah. If you want him, keep him in. If you don't want him, distribute the funds. Not much to talk about there. Stack is an interesting one because everyone now has him in their team as the bench or have brought him in. But last season he only scored 2 goals, and I feel like it's just knee jerk and everyone bringing him in. He's playing in the Leeds team. I don't think he's had one good game. So for me, probably an avoid. That 5 million, fine if he's your rotating last midfielder, but you may as well just have Josh King, who's going to play at cam for Fulham for me anyway. And then the last one is that I'm keen to get your view on is Phil Foden. Is it time for the Phil Foden train with Burnley at home at 10? Is that not just too enticing, or is it too early to go with Phil Foden?
I'm just so scared of getting burned with Foden again. Because last year it felt like there was so many times where we're like, oh, now it's time to bring Foden in. Like he's back, he's fit, he's ready to play, and it just never came to fruition. But I think you're right though. Like Pep's been very outspoken about Foden, how he's starting to see like the form of Phil Foden of 2 years ago. And again, I don't think he's quite there yet. I don't know if I'm willing to run that risk. But definitely the way that he's looked recently, he might just be back. And at 8 million, I don't think it's a bad pivot. Like I have Mbeumo on my team, and I'm like, well, do I want him or do I want Foden because they're the same price? And I'm not sure which way I want to lean. Like, do I want to trust on United and Mbeumo and his ability to score and basically the only attacker up front that can take shots at goal? Or do I want to bet on Foden, who I think is a much stronger attack overall? It's just, I think the inconsistencies are tough to balance with Foden. But I don't hate him as a differential as well. Like, if you want to go away from Reijnders and away from that template side, going to Foden is a great way to do that because you're still getting the same attacking threat with City without having to play the ups and downs of Reijnders, which I think are still going to be a thing all season long.
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of really deliberating over Phil Foden. And I think you're right with Mbeumo. Like he's that price point where I'm still a wait and see on Foden. I've got Mbeumo in my team. I'm going to wait with Mbeumo, see how it goes. And I just think it's written in the stars that Mbeumo will go back to the vitality and score. It's just like, it is so written that he's going to go and United will win 3-1. And I think he'll score, get an assist. So that's kind of my one prediction for next week. So that's why I'm a wait and see on Phil Foden. In terms of attack then, what I think is interesting this week is the Ekitike second yellow for taking his shirt off. And also not just missing one game, but Slot's dynamic on how he spoke about Ekitike, saying he's stupid and he should be going to celebrate with Chiesa. For me, it feels like the dynamics changed and now Isak's going to be the preferred number one starter. But I don't know if that's enough for you to pick him, or you have Isak in your team, right? Where's your head at with you have Isak and Ekitike. So
I was going to ask you about this, right? Who is your Ekitike pivot, number one? I do have both, right? So I'm obviously going to be selling Ekitike this week. I haven't decided on kind of whether I want to go with the template in a Pedro, whether I want to go to a Gyökeres because I could make a double switch. I do have 2 transfers to kind of make that happen. So first question to you on my team specifically, would you rather have Gyökeres now or Semenyo? Because I don't know if I can get both in my team for this week, because I do have some extra funds as well to move around, but I'm not sure whether I should bring in Gyökeres or bring in Semenyo, because at least for me, Semenyo is such a template player, I don't want to have him in my team at all. Like if I didn't have him at the beginning, I didn't have him at 7-4, he's like 7-8 now, I just don't want to bring him in and make my team differential another way. But I think in terms of Ekitike versus Isak, I think Isak's going to be the guy going forward. He started midweek. He scored. Obviously, Ekitike came in, also scored, but he got suspended. Because of that, I think that Isak's going to have to start on the weekend again, especially with Chiesa playing 90, right? They could go a route where maybe they play Rio outside and they put Gakpo at striker and still play Chiesa on, or Salah will still play on the right. But I just don't think that's going to happen. Chiesa's been kind of that second, third striker. Gakpo's probably going to start on the left, but I think Isak's going to be the guy going forward. It's just, what do you do with Ekitike now? Is he just done? Should he not be in your team? Are you kind of out on Ekitike altogether? You haven't been very in favor of him, especially with them getting Isak, but I think it's a world where both of them could thrive. Like this team is good enough for that.
Yeah, no, I do think you're right. It's a team where they can both thrive, and it's a team where you saw both played 45 minutes, both scored. So, even as a sub, they come on and score. I just don't think I want an 8.6 or have much, maybe even 8.8 now, million player that I'm worried about and checking the lineup 15 minutes before the game to be like, oh, it's my player. That's 8.8 million actually even playing. So I think if I wanted one of the two right now, I'd be on Isak. I think, and he's proven
What's
in the Prem. What's
your confidence in Isak, though? Because you say you don't want a guy that you're checking lineup at 8.6. Well, you're kind of doing the same thing with Isak at 10.5.
Yeah, I'm a void on both for now. But if I had to have one, I'd be Isak. And I do think he's a good option. Like the issue for me is with the Champions League fixtures, the league games, the rotation just seems fresh for that inevitable one spot. And that's why I've kept Salah, is I just think I want an entry into that Liverpool team. And he's the one that's going to play 90 minutes every game. So I think Isak I'd probably favour over Ekitike right now, but it's just wait and see for Liverpool, really. And in terms of pivoting off Ekitike, I like João Pedro, and I like him because Palmer's out for a period of time, so you just know João Pedro is nailed. And when Palmer was out before, João Pedro did really
He'll be on
well.
pens.
He's scoring or getting an assist. He's on penalties as well, so it's just.
Or I guess
for me,
didn't Enzo took the last pen though? So that I guess we'll see
that's
if Pedro
true,
takes
yeah.
pens.
Yeah, that's true. Ender did take so, but I still just think João Pedro is going to be the focal point of an attack that we say every week they do get in those positions. They've got the most shots in the Premier League, that kind of thing. So I really like João Pedro, and Gyökeres I think is an interesting one because I've not watched a game so far that I think, wow, I really want to own Gyökeres. I want to own Gyökeres because he's on penalties and because of the fixtures. So I'm probably a wait and see on Gyökeres to see. I'm going to watch the Newcastle game and see how he plays. And if he looks good, he looks sharper. If he's trying to finally getting back to the Lisbon ways of, playing, then I want him for that West Ham at home fixture. I just think João Pedro is probably, if you could only have one of those, I'd probably go with Pedro. The only other two players that I think is interesting is Isidore for Sunderland keeps scoring. So, at 5-5, why have this headache and just go for him? Seems to be doing the business. I'm a Newcastle fan, so I won't be going anywhere near him. And Igor Jesus, I thought was interesting because he started for Ange. Ange already came in and dropped Chris Wood this quickly, and he scored 2 goals in the first half last night in the cup. So it's just kind of crazy that if he's going to be the main man going forward, and you know how Ange likes to play football in an attacking side, Sunderland at home, why not get ahead of the curve there?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's interesting, and those are 2 names I'm gonna have to watch. But yeah, what we do at the top is going to be the biggest conversation I think this week, because the midfield, it just feels so template right now, and that's where I really struggle overall. But I think that's your big 3. That's who you want to own. Again, I'm going to have Isak in the team just because if he does become Liverpool's main man and is playing even 60 every game, like he's going to score so many goals for this side. You talked about Gyökeres and how you want the Arsenal striker because there's so much goal scoring potential there, especially with Saka back, but you just don't know if Gyökeres is going to be the guy that, even at his price tag at 9 million, I think is fair, but still maybe a little more than you're willing to pay with Pedro still there. How do you feel about Haaland this week? What's your level of concern with him?
I've got no real concern. I'm going to keep him in and captain him. Pep always does this. I think might have a little issue, but I think he's trying to, why did he sub Haaland early against Arsenal? I think it's, he wants the narrative to be that, he was slightly injured and similarly again. So
goes into Burnley and scores 3 goals right in the first half. And
he's rested him in the cup. He'll come in and exactly play 60 minutes, probably score 2 or 3 goals and then get subbed. So I'm not too fussed. He's definitely my captain.
But here are our fixtures going into this game week, Tom. You talked about how you're captaining Haaland, obviously 2.76 expected goals, 49% of a clean sheet. I was surprised to see the Tottenham goal scoring output at over 2 goals as well. But is there anything else you have circled as kind of some differentials or some players you may start because of the matchups?
No, I don't think so. It's interesting. That City game now has got me thinking that I want Phil Foden even more than I didn't want him, just with how many goals they're going to score. Tottenham as well, interesting. Kudus. A lot of people have Kudus. He's doing quite well. And Xavi Simons is another one where, people are bringing him in. He looks really good. So I think for Tottenham, if you own Kudus or Xavi Simons, great differentials. That isn't Undying Reijnders in the midfield. That I think are probably another way that quite interesting ways into that Tottenham attack with a great fixture at Wolves at home. You can see them scoring even 3 or 4 there. And I think Palace and Liverpool, I think it's a good week to pivot off Salah, given that they're not going to score that much goals, and I think Palace are a good defense. I'd probably even give them a better chance at a clean sheet than 18%. I think that's a bit unfair, but I think otherwise United, I think Mbeumo will score. Chelsea, I think João Pedro is going to score. Newcastle, Arsenal, I can see being 0-0, 1-1. But they're kind of the main ones that I've been looking at.
Yeah, honestly, probably the most concerning number here is that Bournemouth 1.37 expected goals against Leeds. Like, come on. They got to do better than that. And it's funny because I was thinking of bringing Evan Nielsen into my team for this week with Semenyo as kind of like a double switch and just double up on Bournemouth because their fixtures are still very strong. But seeing that may have to make the switch and go for a Phil Foden or somebody else. But That is it, I think, for this game week. We gave everyone some wildcard options, some differentials, and some players that we're going to be targeting for the following game weeks. Tom, do you have any final notes as we head into game week 6? You're captaining Haaland, you're bringing in Senesi at all costs, and you're fading Reijnders, Salah, and a few more other players.
I'm still just smug that I picked Semenyo in game week 1, so that's about it for me. Nice to chat and go through everything again.
Yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe, and of course, we will see you guys next week. We're out. Peace.
Peace.